Major production funding for Game Notes is provided by Hargrove Engineers and Constructors is proud to support LPB. Since 1995, Hargrove has been employee-owned and relationship-driven. With 2,700 teammates around the world, Hargrove works as one team to go beyond expectations.
You have what it takes to begin your journey: curiosity, ingenuity, intellect, determination. Through a vast portfolio of affordable and in-demand academic programs, hundreds of student-focused activities, and wraparound services, Southern University meets you where you are, giving you the tools and support that lead you to a successful career in the sciences or the arts. Begin with your goals anywhere. Finish stronger at Southern University at subr.edu.
The Rolf Pugh Agency is proud to support this program. Based in Louisiana, Rolf Pugh has provided marketing services nationwide since 1981, partnering with clients in healthcare, retail, automotive, and more. For more information, visit rpagency.com. With additional support from Lafayette Travel, the LSU Alumni Association, and the Cook Hotel and Conference Center at LSU, Louisiana Tech University, Natchitoches Regional Medical Center, Northwestern State University, Red Stick Sports, the U.S. Army Baton Rouge Recruiting Battalion, the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and viewers like you. Thank you. Here we go. It's great to have you with us for Game Notes here on a Sunday, the post-game edition, along with my Super Bowl champ partner, Scott Shanley. I'm Victor Howell. Week 4 in the books. We are closing in on the end of the month of September, which means conference play is right around the corner. Yes, some teams have gotten to play, but now you kind of get your final tune-up, Scott, before the teams start really playing for keeps.
Yeah, and as a coaching staff, you've kind of figured out what your team is, what your players do well under the lights. Like I said, practice and game times are different. You've seen your team under the lights. You get into conference play. Whole new season now. For a lot of these teams, it's a brand new season. These preseason games, so to speak, are out of the way. Now it's time to get in your conference and get that first goal of winning a conference championship.
The Southern Jaguars had this weekend off. They're getting ready for Jackson State next week, so hopefully they had a chance to enjoy some of the action around our state on this busy week 4. Let's take a look at what we have coming up here on Game Notes tonight here on LPB. The cat fight in Tiger Stadium as the Lions from Southeastern made their way to Tiger Stadium. Good crowd on hand. LSU taking care of business as expected. We'll review that. The momentum keeps rolling up in Ruston for the Bulldogs from Louisiana Tech as they welcome Southern Miss up there to Ruston. And how about more drama up in Grambling? Yeah, another one down to the wire for the Tigers. All of that and more coming up here on Game Notes. But let's start out in West Texas, where the Warhawks from UL-Monroe made their return to the field after a bye week. It felt like a long time, maybe even longer, because the last time we saw the Warhawks on the field, they got blanked in a big way in Tuscaloosa to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Egos were hurt, bodies were bruised. It's an early season bye week for them. But Brian Vincent said this week he liked the way the team was grinding at practice, getting refocused, and they put it to the test late last night out in El Paso against the Miners from UTEP. Brian Vincent getting his team ready to go. And just 4 minutes into the game, trouble. An early strike for the Miners, a 23-yard touchdown over the top. But wait a minute, there's a flag on the play. Holding would take the touchdown off the board. Would that come back to haunt them? Well, they wind up doing nothing with the drive, and the Warhawks open with the ball on the 2. And on the very first play, Dorian Lewis breaks free. 72 yards down the near sideline to the 26. That's how you get out of the shadows of your own end zone. And 2 plays later, Aiden Armenta hits Jake Godfrey. 12 yards to the left corner of the end zone, 98 yards on the drive for the Warhawks, and now they are up 7-0. But the Miners answer in a big way, as in the next play from scrimmage. Malachi Nelson hits Trevon Tate. He finds a seam and he's gone. 73 yards for the touchdown. No penalties on this one. It counts, and we're tied at 7. Near the end of the first, back come the Warhawks. Armenta to Jake Godfrey. Lots of time. Deep drop. Finds Godfrey 37 yards, and we're inside the 40. Very next play. Welcome to the party, Mr. McReynolds, as in Braylon McReynolds. His first run from scrimmage on the night, and he cashes it in. 40 yards on the touchdown for the transfer from South Alabama, and the Warhawks have the touchdown lead. Coach Vincent, stay back, we're going to score again. And he's right. We flip ends of the field, and in the second quarter, here we go. 2 minutes into the second quarter, what a play on this little crisscross. Jonathan Bibbs, 35 yards into the end zone. It's 21-7, UL-Monroe. Now 24-7, and we're in the third quarter. Hunter Herring gets the pile. Shove him in. He gets him in the end zone. It is 31-7, but that's when things take a turn. It's now 31-10 in the fourth quarter. Malachi Nelson, Wandami Davis Jr. He gets it all alone in the end zone, 44 yards, and it's 31-18. Warhawks have to punt, and in 2.5 minutes, the Miners score again. And it's Davis Jr. again. Now it's 31-25. Under a minute to go. UTEP has the ball. Home field. They can drive for the win. But Nelson back to pass. Overthrows his receiver. No timeout, so they have to do it all on the field. And David Godsey seals the deal for the Warhawks. Whew. What a game and what a big win for the Warhawks to bounce back and go to 2-1 on the season. 31-25. Look at the rushing yards. 250 for the Warhawks, just 33 yards for the Miners. Braylon McReynolds, a big part of that. 18 carries, 107 yards, and the touchdown. The Warhawks are back home next weekend for homecoming against Arkansas State. And after this one, Coach Vincent talked about the fight making the difference.
I was frustrated because when you're up 31-7, you got to finish them, period. We've got them on the ropes, and we just sat there and played with them and let them get back in the game instead of knocking them out and finishing it. So that's obviously something we can learn from and continue to grow. I'll always like it after a win. You know, we always can fix it, but those things right there, we've got to, if we're going to be the team we want to be, we got to finish people when we've got them on the road, and we've got to execute in the prime moments.
You let him catch a couple scores towards the end, but then 2 minutes remaining, 2 interceptions.
You know, man, it just tells you about the perseverance, the grit, all the things that we talk about. Toughness, discipline, grit, perseverance. And right there, our backs were against the wall, and a touchdown beats us right there, and our defense came up with 2 big picks. My message is this. Look, this team, for 2 straight weeks, grinded its tails off and prepared to win the third road game, the first non-conference road game since 2018. I think that's pretty impressive. That's pretty good growth. But my message is real clear. Show up, be loud, wear maroon, and let's cheer on these Warhawks that are fighting for this university in this town. It's time to get behind them in a big way. And I challenge everybody, just get behind us. Together we're stronger, and now's the time.
It was a big win indeed. He gave up a 70-burger in Tuscaloosa, no slouch, of course, playing Alabama. But to his point about closing it out, Scott, how tough is that when especially when you're on the road, but you got a comfortable lead, all of a sudden the home team starts to come back. Now they've got the crowd. Yep. Now they've got the momentum. Do you sense that offenses sometimes get a little conservative, or defense are worried about going to make the play, which could lead to a score going the other direction? There's
no question. Offensively, you don't want to turn the football over. And to ULM's credit, they went on the road against the #1 sack defense in the conference, and they did what they needed to do. They ran the ball well, didn't turn the football over. You got out to this big lead, and then, to your point, you start to get a little conservative. Just don't lose the game. Don't turn the football over. Defensively, you start to play very vanilla coverages where you just make the offense check the ball down in front of you, and before you know it, they score a couple times, that momentum and that home crowd starts getting back in it, and then you're in a ball game.
But the defense did step up, as you heard him mention, not 1 but 2 interceptions late. The UTEP Miners started using their timeouts, but when they needed to make a play, even on the overthrow, you needed somebody there. They were there to finally seal the deal.
Yeah, and you like to see that in a game where the ebbs and flows of the momentum, and momentum is real, especially you go college level and the high school level, and you have younger guys, that momentum of the home crowd can overtake you at some moments, no matter what the lead is. So it's about making the plays in the moment that matters most. Right there at the end of the ball game, when the moment mattered most, they stepped up and made the play.
And you mentioned about the running game. Remember in our preview show, we introduced you to Braylon McReynolds. Ahmad Hardy, he's a pretty good player now at Missouri, right? 250 yards 1 week ago. This weekend, over 175 yards rushing. He was a Warhawk last year. So you've got to find somebody to fill the void, right? Well, here comes McReynolds. He was at South Alabama, really couldn't find a window to play. When we talked to him on our preview show, he said, hey, I'll do whatever coach needs in any style. Passing game, running game. How about the day that he had yesterday? Over 100 yards rushing, plus the touchdown on his very first carry. 14 receiving yards as well. That's a very deep running back room, Scott, but McReynolds has certainly been the guy to take the lead.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. Braylon played outstanding yesterday, and ULM won the rushing battle 252-33. You're going to win a lot of football games that way. When you turn around and hand the ball off to a dynamic player like this who can hit the home run ball on the outside. You can run inside or outside. Special player, and this is why when you get into games like this, especially on the road, you don't have to be super aggressive. You can just turn around and hand the ball off. And remember, a week ago, Coach talked about how the Texas Longhorns got whooped at the offensive line by the UTEP. So credit to the ULM offensive line as well.
No doubt. And now they head back home to Monroe next weekend for homecoming. Should be a great atmosphere as they try to improve to 3-1. on the season. Let's turn our attention now to the cat fight in Baton Rouge on Saturday night. A gorgeous night in Baton Rouge for Southeastern to make the easy drive from Hammond, about 40-45 minutes away, to make its way into Tiger Stadium. It's just the third time these two teams have squared off, but a wonderful opportunity for the Lions to get there and challenge LSU, who is looking to fine-tune some things and sharpen it up before they start SEC play in 1 week. LSU at Southeastern, just outside of Tiger Village at the Maravich Assembly Center, looking at Tiger Stadium. The Lions wearing their green and ready to go in this one. Remember, we found out this week from head coach Brian Kelly, Garrett Nussmeier, torso injury. What injury? He's throwing early right here. Gets the completion to Aaron Anderson. AA had 3 catches on the night. Nussmeier then pushes away in for the score. Look at that scrum. Helmet coming off. Tough quarterback. Gets it over the line. Tiger score. It's 7-0. End of the first quarter. 4th and 1 for the Lions. Frank Selfo says, what do we have to lose? Let's go for it. Unfortunately, the gamble doesn't pay off. They get stopped in the middle of the field, and the Tigers take advantage with good field position. But how about the Lions defense? Getting to Nussmeier. Seen him sacked a few times throughout this early part of the season. Kalen Proctor with the big sack there. We switch ends of the field. Still just 7-0. Early second quarter for LSU on 4th and 11. Brian Kelly says, let's go for it. Xavier Thomas across the middle. He gets the first down inside the 20. And it leads to Jawan Johnson punching it in from 2 yards out, 14-0 LSU. Nussmeier then on the scramble. What torso injury? Not hurting when he throws. Deep drop, scramble, sees some field. Heck with it, I'm going with it. And he takes it. 26 yards on the scramble inside the 10-yard line for Nussmeier. Very next play, it's Johnson again. Scott says it's always great to be able to hand it off to your best friend in the backfield. Keeps balance, gets it into the end zone. 21-0 LSU now on top. Lions still there with the fight. Here comes Proctor again. He gets to Nussmeier. That's a loss of 11. But on the very next play, Nussmeier says, no worries, I got you. Drops back to pass, finds Berry and Brown into the end zone. 28-0 LSU at this point. Now it's 35-0 in the third. Nussmeier to Bauer Sharp. Remember the one-time Southeastern Lion. Then he went to Oklahoma for a cup of coffee. Now back in Baton Rouge, he leaps 23 yards on the touchdown to Sharp. It's 42-0, but the Lions don't quit. Carson Camp to Jordan Williams across the middle, and Williams picks up some room. It's 30 yards there, and 5 plays later on 3rd and 14, Camp hits DeAndre Jackson for the touchdown. Gets the Lions on the scoreboard, 42-7 as Southeastern gets some points up there. Nussmeier takes the rest of the night off. Here comes Michael Van Buren, and what a job he did on the night. Really nice night, 10 of 12 for Van Buren. Coming in, Kyle Parker takes it, 27 yards in the touchdown. Tigers took care of business as expected. Van Buren, 10 of 12, 122 yards in fill-in role just in the fourth quarter. Frank Selfo, nice job by his Lions. Just too much LSU in this one. Nuss had just 6 incompletions, 273 passing yards, and 3 touchdowns as the Tigers throw for just shy of 400. Southeastern just 116. Look at the red zone. Both teams scored when they were in the red zone, but LSU are very impressive. 6 for 6 on the night. Southeastern opens up conference play next week against Texas Rio Grande Valley. As for LSU, they are on the road for the second time this season. They will be in Oxford against number 13 Ole Miss. More on that ball game in a moment. Afterwards, comments from head coach Brian Kelly on the efforts.
You know, we have a standard of the way we wanted to play, and I thought we upheld that standard. You know, there's no perfection out there, but there was definitely some progress. So we made the progress that we were looking for. Now we got to build on that. Going into Ole Miss on the road against a very good football team. Again, the goal here was to, play to a standard, not to the opposition. A lot of respect for Coach Selfo and what he's done and accomplished, but we had the better team and the better players, so it then becomes much more about your execution and the things you do, and I thought we did some pretty good things today, certainly. The really good players affect others around him, and his energy, his passion for the game brings up others around him. Nice to see him catch the football. We thought we would get a chance to get it to the tight end, and certainly we found him in some big situations. I think our third down conversion was 9 of 14, and he was targeted on some of those. But he obviously starting at Southeast Louisiana, this was a big game. He was one of our game day captains, and he was excited to play in it.
Earlier in this news conference, you used the word healthy to describe Garrett Nussmeier. I know that he had been battling a torso issue since training camp.
Yes,
Would you describe him right now as 100%? And if not, do you expect him to be 100% for the Ole Miss game next weekend?
Yeah, I'd say that, we had talked about during the week that he was on the other side of the injury and he felt really good. And that's why, we actually ran him a little bit. He felt good running the football. And we knew during the week that he was healthy just by the way he was throwing the football. So, yeah, I would say that that's the version that you'll get the rest of the year.
And this is what they're looking at for the rest of the year, now sitting at 4-0 after some grind-out wins at Clemson, at home against Florida, a tough one against Louisiana Tech. You go to Oxford against a high-octane Ole Miss Rebel team we'll talk about here in just a moment. Then you get the first bye of the season. But then, Scott, here comes the gauntlet. South Carolina may not be what people thought they were early in this season. Vanderbilt is everything people wanted them to be, and then some. You can see where the grind starts to kick into overdrive.
Yeah, those next 4 games, you look at them, you start to break them. South Carolina arguably has the #1 draft pick right now in Sellers. A lot of people moving him up the draft board. At Ole Miss played outstanding against a really good Tulane football team. So if you just look at the short term, the next 2 games, the nice thing is you have a couple of bye weeks, but you have a lot of tough football to play in between there.
Nussmeier, remember in the preseason in August, there were the erroneous reports that he had an ACL injury, might be done. Everybody's holding their breath. Now we find out about the torso injury. It certainly looked like he had his best complete game. When he's comfortable, he put up the numbers, even with the scrambles that we showed you, that we're used to Garrett Nussmeier from a year ago.
Yeah, and it's great to see. And a lot of people, you expect it in a game like this, but like Coach Kelly said, it's about us. It's about our execution. It's about our standard that we have to play, no matter who's across from the other side from us. So you look at games like this, and coming out of a game like this, you want to see Nussmeier play well. That makes you feel good. You can get him out of the game early, keep him healthy for the Ole Miss game coming up. But you get reps to guys like Van Buren, 10 of 12. Kyle Parker scoring a touchdown late. Building that depth on your team in games like this is critical for early in the year, for late in the season when it gets critical.
Look at some of the stats and numbers as the Tigers get that big win over the Lions Saturday night in Tiger Stadium with this matchup here. And the rushing yards, Scott, if there's one thing that I think Tiger fans really want, and remember, Brian Kelly was asked about this. I know it wasn't the best timing, but the rushing game. 135 yards against Southeastern. Now, you can easily say, oh, we didn't need it. We were 395 through the air and everything was working. But if you take a bigger look at the bigger picture with that running back room that they have, I think Tiger fans want to see that 135 be at 175, right? 195, 162, something bigger before that gauntlet that we just talked about and the support that you give Nussmeier.
There's no question. Everybody loves to see the football fly in the air, but in the SEC conference, you have to do 2 things. You have to be able to run the football when it's needed, and you have to be able to play good defense. And the thing is, playing good defense and running the football go hand in hand.
Sure.
Those are complements in the game of football. So, yes, everybody likes to see the ball flying through the air. You want to have an efficient passing game, but you have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. This is a line of scrimmage league, and that's why there's some concern around the running game.
Very impressive. Both teams were perfect in the red zone. Of course, LSU had it 6 for 6 as they get the big win, and now they'll head into conference play with Southeastern playing Texas Rio Grande Valley, and then LSU will be taking on Ole Miss. Speaking of, the Ole Miss Rebels at home on Oxford, facing, as Scott mentioned, a very good Tulane team, undefeated with already 2 big wins over Power 4 teams, with Northwestern having gotten past them already, and then also getting the big win against Duke out of the ACC. Now on the road, instead of playing at Yeoman Stadium, up in Oxford, where there's an outstanding environment, another great day, gorgeous day for weather. The Grove, is hopping when the Ole Miss Rebels are playing at home. Well, it's a good day for the Rebels, not so much for the team wearing green, but here we go. They come out firing. Trinidad Chambliss. Now, look, this might be the starter, Scott. He was coming off the bench. He's not even supposed to be their #1 guy. His numbers are absurd so far in 2 games.
And I think it speaks a lot about Lane Kiffin as an offensive mind, especially in the college football game. Lane's been outstanding, no matter who's playing quarterback. Go back to many years, he's always had success at that position.
He had a 13-yard pass. That's a 41-yard scramble. Then it ends with this bullet into the end zone to Daquan Wright, and Ole Miss has a 7-0 lead. Rough start for Tulane's offense and Jake Retzlaff, who has been wonderful so far this season. This one thrown behind receiver. This one on a scramble is thrown into the dirt. Second quarter, down 13-0. Still no completions for Tulane's passing game. Retzlaff says, I'll fix that. Remember, I can run. Deep drop, avoids the tackles, finds some room, and now he's off for the races. 30 yards here for Retzlaff on a great pickup using his legs. Unfortunately, the offense stalls, but it sets up Patrick Durkin, 34 yards out at this point, still perfect on the season. It's 13-3 Rebels. Very next offensive play. Chambliss again, up top. Deshaun Stribling, 53 yards on this completion. Boy, these chunk plays, and they hit you so fast with these. 5 plays later, Kawan Lacey takes it in on the direct snap. It's now 20-3. The Wave have it, closing out the first half. Retzlaff across the middle, trying to get things going, and it's dropped. That's the kind of day Tulane had. Tulane opens the third quarter with a 14-play, 7-minute, 70-yard drive. Ole Miss, they come up empty. Ole Miss then scores 22 points in the fourth quarter. Rebels win it big, 45-10. Here's Coach Sumrall after the game.
Not our best today. Frustrating performance. It's on me. Starts with me. Ends with me. I got to have our guys more prepared to play better football. Felt like hats off to Ole Miss. Really, really good football team. Really well coached team.
The tempo is fast. It's fast. it's legit. The thing is just trying to get it lined up before they do. I think we did a decent job of that, but we practiced it all week. I think they just made more plays, so it was more difficult in that aspect.
The thing I was most pleased with in the game, I'm still frustrated with all of it, but the third quarter, our guys came out and fought. Like I told them, I'm like, guys, your character's revealed when things aren't going good, not when it is going good. And right now, things aren't going very good at halftime. Can't fix anything that's already happened. All you can do is move forward.
We shouldn't focus on this L. We don't look at losses as a loss. We just learn from our mistakes. And I feel like going into next week, we got to come out harder, practice harder, and do what we got to do.
I mean, every week you got to flush the game. You got to move on. Whether you win or lose, you have to move on. Because if you don't, it's gonna either beat you the next week or another week down the road. So just knowing we haven't arrived, knowing that, hey, we got to come back and bring it every day. Every day you got to bring it. Otherwise, somebody's gonna come in and sneak up on you.
That's a hurt locker room. I mean, those guys have worked really hard. And they know they didn't perform their best today. And that's everybody. It's me. None of us were at our best today. And that really sucks because we missed an opportunity today. It was a special one. We got conference play starting next week. That's pretty special too. And I will address with them. I already kind of hit on this, but I will address with them that, conference play is the beginning of a new day. And when you get into conference play, conference championships are kind of one of the biggest goals you have every year. And so I think this group will focus and turn our attention towards conference and be ready to attack it.
Well, like many teams getting ready to get into conference play, that's where it becomes important, and it will for Tulane. Next week they will be at Tulsa. More on them in just a moment and some of the similarities they will see. But, Scott, as you take a look at this, you notice they have 3 games and then 2 bye weeks in the next 5 weeks. But that brings it to the end of the month, and I take it back to our preview show. The 2 teams mentioned as being contenders in the American, UTSA, Memphis, both of those teams on the road, back-to-back, after that second bye week. So to Sumrall's point, this is where things start becoming important.
Yeah, and you look at those bye weeks, sometimes having that many bye weeks, it can be good and bad. It can be good because you should be fresh after those, but it's bad because sometimes you lose a little bit of a rhythm as a team when you have to knock off some rust. But you look at what happened yesterday against Ole Miss. Ole Miss at home, we talked about it yesterday. Since 2020, over 500 yards a game at home. Yeah. They did it again, 548. Yeah. I think if you're Tulane, the biggest concern you have coming out of this game is probably your inefficiency in the passing game. We've seen Retzlaff been great with his legs all year long. Yeah. But if you want to get to where you want to get to, and that's winning a conference championship and hopefully the college football playoff, the inefficiency in the passing game, they have to be addressed a little bit.
Yeah, Tulane hopes that was just a one-off because he's been outstanding in his short time at Tulane. But it took him to almost the end of the first half, late second quarter, before Retzlaff got his first completion. I think he had missed 9 in a row, 10 in a row before he finally got one. The other thing for Tulane of note, the last 2 times they've played an SEC team, they lost big to Florida in the bowl game to end last year, and then now against Ole Miss, they've been outscored 78-18. So there's some things they need to adjust size-wise, strength-wise, and maybe schematically. But when it comes to scheming, and especially Ole Miss, and we talked about this on Game Notes on Saturday morning, Ole Miss is one of the best teams in the country when it comes to speed. I want to just show you this sequence, okay? Now, this is fourth quarter. Scott, fair to say the game's put away, right? Yes. 31-3. Watch this on a 53-yard completion down inside the 10, inside the 5. Now, watch the clock. When he gets up, it's 12-10 on the clock, right? Yep. You're up by 28 points. 12-10, remember, is when he got off the ground. So we are just about going to get to, here we are here, we're about to get to 10 seconds, and Ole Miss is already almost at the line of scrimmage with no huddle. They're going to go about 5 more seconds in the next snap. They're third in the SEC, 9th in the country, averaging 22.4 seconds per play. This one went off at 21.
Yeah, and this is Lane Kiffin offense. These guys practice this from the moment they step on campus. This is our tempo. This is how we run our offense. No matter what the score is, this is what we do. And the hard thing about defensive football, replicating that tempo in practice, you can't replicate it, because what happens in practice is, I remember when we played tempo teams, you'd have the scout team who go off of cards. They don't know the other team's plays. They're looking at what their assignment is. So you'd have multiple scout teams looking at cards and sprinting in as soon as that play's over, because they don't know the plays. Obviously, they're running them off cards. So it is impossible to replicate the true speed until you get to the game time.
Well, Tulane plays Tulsa next week. Tulane's 9th in the country at pace. Tulsa's 10th. So at least Tulane's gotten a little taste of it. Yep. And, oh, by the way, LSU might want to check out this game film, because they're rolling into Oxford next Saturday afternoon. Welcome back to play for the Nicholls Colonels, who came off their bye week. They are on the road at Texas State. You know, it's the battle for the paddle. These two teams used to play in conference, but yeah, there's the real paddle right there. Back in the 90s, they were going there because of flooding. A comment was made, man, you had to get there with a paddle. Now they play for the paddle. How about that? Something maybe you didn't know. Brad Jackson, the quarterback for the Bobcats, early on, got them going with hitting Bo Sparks for that pass down the far sideline. 2 plays later, Jackson keeps him himself, and it's 7-0 Texas State. Colonel's offense gets going. Shane Lee, he takes a handoff. He's going right side towards his bench with a little spin, keeps going, gets it inside the 30-yard line. Now 2nd and 5 from the 14. Bad news here. Deuce Hogan can't handle the snap. They lose yardage, lose it down, wind up settling for a field goal. Gabe Showalter from 32 yards out, and it's good. 7-3 Texas State at this point. Unfortunately for the Colonels, that's when the Bobcats would find their offensive groove and they would get big chunk plays. Jackson to Bo Sparks again. This time he gets behind the defense, 28 yards on the completion. Switch ends of the field. Second play of the second quarter, Brad Jackson. He takes it in from 4 yards out. It's now 14-3, his second touchdown of the night. And they're just getting started. More big plays for the Cats. Jackson here finds Kyle Evans. Evans does the rest. Across the middle, outruns 3 defenders, 45 yards. He gets it down to the 5-yard line. Next play, Torrance Burgess. He takes it into the end zone. 21-3. Bobcats still in the second quarter. Jackson hits Kyle Evans on the little pitch and catch. Nice little over-the-top throw as he finds the seam inside the defenders. That leads to a Lincoln Perry 9-yard touchdown, and it's getting out of hand here, and he's safe with the slide. 28-3, Bobcats. Just before the half, Colonels are on the doorstep, but Hogan, looking to the end zone, picked off by Kamari Terrell. That was as close as they would get to making something happen. Not much happened in the second half, but that's bad news for the Colonels. They needed a lot to happen. They wound up losing this ball game 35-3. 3 straight losses now for the Colonels. Texas State was 5 for 5 in the red zone. Rough afternoon for Hogan, 15-21, just 97 yards in that pick. Next time back on the road, remember that was the first of 4 straight they'll be on the road at Eastern Kentucky. Let's go to Grambling. What a ball game. Let's talk about the schedule first here for Nicholls and Scott. The point to make here, excuse me for jumping ahead for a second here. You're going on the road. Remember the first of 4 straight on the road. But remember, the Colonels opened the season at home against Incarnate Word, the defending champ, and got the win. So while they've struggled in 3 straight, they are 1-0 in Southern Conference play heading in.
Yeah, and the theme of today is all these teams, most of these teams we're talking about, are getting into conference play. You set your season goals at the beginning of the year. We want to win the conference. Most teams set that goal. So you do have that conference win. And it's been a little rough stretch here, and it's about to get a little rough going on the road. But you do have that in your back pocket. And I think that's what you preach as a coach. And as a player, you feel good knowing that as we get into conference play, we've already got one in the back pocket.
All these teams focusing on the importance of conference play. Nicholls has already been there and done that with 1 big win already. Now let's take it to Grambling. Sorry, I had to put it in reverse for a second there, but now we're back in drive. Grambling hosting East Texas A&M. Remember, coming off of 1 week ago, an overtime win at home with some bonus football. How about the thriller that they would have Saturday night? Eric Rodriguez for the Tigers. 17 yards for East Texas as they get things going. E.J. Oakman then ends the impressive drive. This is Lions and Tigers again, by the way. Second matchup of Lions and Tigers in the state of Louisiana here. 7-0, East Texas gets on top. Second quarter, it's still 1-0, 7-0, 1-0 like a baseball. Jashawn McMillan, 14 yards here. That sets up 3rd and 3 when Rodriguez hits his tight end, Bryson Davis. It's 14-0, East Texas A&M. But here come the Tigers. Trey Bradford takes it right up the middle. Beautiful 20-yard run there to set up Grambling in good scoring position. With a minute to go in the first half, Xavion Tizet, John Horton, 11 yards on the touchdown. It's 14-7. Mickey Joseph's team back in it. Early third quarter. Whoa! That's the Lions punters going the wrong way, and that's bad news because of the bad snap. Kicks it out of bounds. The Grambling Tigers get it at the 1. It took them 4 plays on 4th and 1, but they finally get it in as Tizet punches it in, and we're tied at 14 thanks to the special teams gift. The Lions then come back and answer. Rodriguez to Jaden Proctor. Tremendous catch. Originally ruled out at the 1, but you can clearly see he spun inside the pylon. It's 21-14 Lions. Back come the Tigers. Look at this sprint. Warren Robinson, 54 yards up the middle for the house call, and we're tied at 21. Early fourth quarter, McMillan again for the Lions, 6 yards in the touchdown run. They're back up by 7. Now under 3 minutes to go. It's 28-24 Lions. Clyde McClendon for Grambling. Near side, knocked out of bounds at the half-yard line. Very next play, if you did all the work, you get the rewards. He punches it in. It's 31-28 Grambling. East Texas A&M gets one last shot. They move the ball down the field. They get the field goal position. But for Oslo Rigby, his career long was 35. This attempt is going to be from 52 to get the game to go to overtime for 2 straight weeks for Grambling. And it is wide left. Had the distance, but wide left. Grambling escapes with more drama at home. But hey, if you come out on the win column, you feel good. 3-1 on the season now for Grambling as they win it 31-28. Grambling had just 54 plays. They gave up 19 more plays to East Texas A&M. Tizet, 14-26 for $179. He rushed for 1 and he threw for 1. Next game, they'll face Prairie View, but that game will be played in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. Second time that we'll see Grambling playing on neutral sites. We talked about that earlier this season, that they do that so often. You know Mickey Joseph, you know from his playing days. We've seen him coaching around now there. Second straight week now. They've had to grind it out. What do you take away from it, though, with what his team is learning, being able to come out on top?
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. They're 3-1. They're getting great quarterback play. This is a well-coached team. But for me, the discipline of this football team is standing out to me. Only 5 penalties all day yesterday. No turnovers. You're making other teams beat you. And when you do that, if you think about the Bill Belichick days with the Patriots, when the Patriots would just play these boring football games sometimes, but they would wait for the other team to make a mistake. I'm not saying Grambling's doing it. Grambling's very balanced on offense, but they're playing smart, disciplined football, and that's how they're winning a lot of these games.
And Tizet has been outstanding, of course, a former Southern Jaguar. You don't often see that move, Southern to Grambling, with the rivalry they have, but he has fit in very well. Remember when we talked to him during our preview season special, he talked about having 3 or 4 guys trying to work things out, started to settle in on one, and when you're a new quarterback and not making mistakes, then you definitely know you feel like you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, at most positions, especially the quarterback position, you have to have a little bit of a leash. If you feel like the coach is always going to yank you because you make a mistake, and what you're seeing right now is you're seeing confidence grow at that position. And when confidence grows at that position, now the rest of the team gravitates towards that position, and the rest of the team believes they have a guy who can take them to where they want to go.
Let's take a look at the upcoming schedule for the Grambling Tigers. As we mentioned, they'll be facing Prairie View, a premier opponent, but that game will be played in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl before Grambling gets its first bye week. Then they will jump into the heart of SWAC play. Of course, it'll be a big one against Jackson State on October 25th. And as always, they'll have a bye week towards the end of the season before the big one against the Southern Jaguars. Again, they were on a bye this week, but they'll look to turn things around when they get into conference play. And that will be the Bayou Classic played down at the Caesars Superdome to close out the season at the end of the month of November. The Demons from Northwestern State, Blaine McCorkle, finally out of those big-time games at Ohio State, at Cincinnati. Now they're still on the road at Prairie View. Remember, they were inches away from beating Prairie View 1 year ago, trying to make it work this time. And Abram Johnston to Jackson King, some early confidence. Remember, they haven't scored a point in 2 weeks with all the big games that they've played. Get the quarterback, the young kid, some confidence. That play here later on 3rd and 11. Johnson hits Cameron Davis. That's good. Colby Burrell as well. He gets it 31 yards. Here comes Cameron Davis. This is 21 yards for the touchdown as Johnston buys time and lets his receiver get over the top of the defense. They get the score at 7-0. Prairie View then needed 5 plays to tie it up, and of the 5 plays, it was one big one. Tevin Carter on the keeper. He sees an opening, and he is gone. 56 yards. They go for 2 and misses, so the Demons have a 1-point lead. Second quarter now, it's 10-9 Demons, and another big play for Prairie View as Chase Bingmon goes 34 yards. Scott, the gaps in the defense have got to be able to tackle. Missed opportunities.
Yeah, missed tackles in space. That's the name of the game. That's how you play great team defense. You need 11 guys to the ball to eliminate those.
LeMays McDowell then takes it in from 1 yard out for Prairie View. It's 17-10 Prairie View at the half. Let's fast forward to the fourth quarter. It's 2017 Prairie View. McDowell again from 5 yards out. Now they're up 10. But wait, the Demons aren't done. Abram Johnston again up top to Ben Buson for 44 yards. Love to see the patience and a little bit of growth from the young quarterback, Scott, that we've seen even since week 1.
Yeah, he had great time in the pocket, wasn't panicking, wasn't hearing footsteps around him, and delivers a great throw.
And speaking of, look at this on that pass. Look how he threads the needle right between two defenders. Outstanding pass there by Johnston. It's 27-24 late. The Demons have to get a stop. You've got to get, oh, they didn't get the stop. This is going 19 yards from McDowell. That's all she wrote. McDowell had a huge day for Prairie View. It was a big day for them as a team as well. It was a grind, but they wind up getting the win over Northwestern State 27-24. As for Johnston, 12 of 19 for 156 and 2 touchdowns. Also had 71 rushing yards, so doing it with his legs. Seeing him get a lot more comfortable there just 4 games into the season for the redshirt quarterback. Prairie View, 346 rushing yards. McDowell, one of 2 players, each with over 100 yards on the ground. Next up for Northwestern State, after a bye week, October 4th against East Texas A&M. But about that bye week, Blaine McCorkle.
We didn't play well enough to win. We didn't take advantage of opportunities when they're there. We didn't play complementary football. Offense would make a play and defense wouldn't back it up. Defense would make a play and offense wouldn't back it up. So we didn't do the things we needed to do to give ourselves an opportunity to win tonight, and that's very disappointing. Right now we've got a very battered and bruised football team. We've got an extremely tired football team, and this bye week's coming at a good time. We've got a lot of football ahead of us. One thing we'll do during the open date is we got to learn how to tackle, because for 2 weeks we have not tackled a soul, and we've got to get better at it.
Scott, there you go. He echoes your point about being able to make those tackles big. And look, you talked about being banged up, and I know everybody's already played 4 or 5 games only, but just remember, at Minnesota, at Cincinnati, blank, playing those bigger teams, getting bruised. So to his point about them being worn out, you can see why. This is their only bye week of the season, but for them, it probably comes at a good time.
It definitely does, because those road games at Minnesota and Cincinnati, they take a lot off you as a defensive player or just playing in the trenches and hitting those type of body types. What you can't do is let those earlier losses lead to later losses. I think Coach, he says it best, it's a great time for a bye. They need to rest up their bodies, but also rest up their minds.
From the Demons, let's check in on the Cowboys, who are out in beautiful state of Utah. What a great night for football in terms of the scoreboard, but Matt Viator had his team out there facing Utah State. First drive of the game, Aggies go 72 yards, but at the end zone, Javen Jacobs, one of those, Scott, stretched the ball over the line, but it's always dangerous because look at the scrum. The ball comes loose, they would check it again, and indeed, McNeese forces the fumble right there. Always a dangerous play.
Yeah, back reaches out for that goal line, and it's a great opportunity as a defensive player to swipe up that ball and create a turnover.
Unfortunately for the Cowboys, they went 3 and out. Then Utah State hits big. Bryson Barnes to a wide open Kahanu Davis. 45 yards, certainly a busted play there for the Cowboys. 6-0 as they would miss the 2-point conversion. Another 3 and out for McNeese, and another big play for the Aggies. Barnes to Brady Boyd. He gets past the defense, and he's off to the races. 53 yards on a 2-play drive, and it's 13-0 Utah State. Second quarter, Aggies starting to make it look easy. Miles Davis, he's going to write a song about this. 30 yards on the left side. He gets it in the end zone, 20-0 after a 4-play drive. Previously a 2-play drive for the score. You kind of get where this is going. Finally, an offensive spark for the Cowboys, though, courtesy of Javonte Citizen. Up the middle, breaking away. It's 51 yards before they finally bring him down inside the 25-yard line. McNeese keeps it going, right side. Get into the end zone for the Cowboys. Finally on the scoreboard, but here come the Aggies once again. Barnes on the keeper. Look at him hit the brakes, turns it upfield. 24 yards here. That sets up a 3-yard touchdown. This would make it 27-7 Aggies. Closing minute of the first half. Barnes again on the scramble. Sits back in the pocket, sees the opening, takes off 20 yards up the middle down to the 1. Very next play, Javen Jacobs would take it in for Utah State. Kind of see the night it was. Beautiful area of the country to be in. Not so much on the field last night for the Cowboys. They were challenged. Utah State just a little too much. In the end, they wound up getting the win by the final score of 48-7. 239 yards from McNeese. But look at the 6-burger, 627 for Utah State. It's the first time since 2012 the Cowboys have faced two FBS teams in the same season. Next up for the Cowboys, they'll open up conference play. They'll stay on the road, but it's a much shorter trip. They will take on Stephen F. Austin. As we take a look for what the Cowboys were able to do for their schedule, and again, you've played some of these bigger challenges, what you can learn from them as they now get into conference play. Matt Viator has proven he knows what he's doing in the Southern Conference. He's had success before. Now you got to take what you've learned, take some of these bumps and bruises that they had. Really, a game a couple weeks ago they could have had the two-point conversion. He made that decision, could have tied it, maybe get a win. Yep. You take all of that now, package it up, let's get ready to go to conference play.
That's exactly right. It's the theme of the show is the silver lining, the glass half full message to most of these teams who suffered a loss is we're getting into conference play. Those were where most of our goals were set. And what these other games were about learning what our deficiencies are, our inefficiencies, things we need to improve. I think if you're McNeese, you want to improve the pass game. Look, quarterback Jake Strong has been their MVP of their team. He's been outstanding all year. But how can we get him in a rhythm in the passing game? Get that passing game going earlier. Do we need to throw more screens? Do we need to throw more three-step drops, more rhythm throws to get him going? Because really, like I said, you're just using these early season games to find out what we need to do better getting into conference play.
Citizen outstanding on the ground. Jake Strong is your reigning offensive player of the week in the Southern Conference from a week ago, but need to try to step up when they get into conference. And it starts next week because, as we mentioned, they'll be on the road at Stephen F. Austin. But then it continues. You'll be against Southeastern Louisiana. That'll be a big game against the Lions before the Cowboys finally hit their bye week. And then you see down the stretch 3 road games in a row. In fact, 4 of the last 5, Scott, will be on the road. So the challenge will be there for the Cowboys to take advantage at home early because then you'll be traveling a lot, needing some big wins.
Absolutely. You got to take care of business when you're at home in front of your fans and in front of your crowd to get that momentum. But when you get on the road later in the season, you don't, as a coach, you're telling your team, it doesn't matter where we play late in the season. We're not going to be the same team at that point in the season that those teams were watching earlier in the season. It's about improving every single week and being a completely different team, better at the end of the season than you were at the beginning.
Let's check in on the Cajuns from UL-Lafayette up in Ypsilanti, Michigan, taking on Eastern Michigan. The Eagles winless on the season. Cajuns come out slinging it. That's right. They come out slinging it in the passing game. Daniel Beal to Robert Williams, 18 yards on the completion here. Then they go to the run. That two-headed monster they got at running back, Zylan Perry, one of the two. Look how he takes us here. 23 yards on the touchdown run. Great start for the Cajuns on the road, up 7-0 with the passing game going and the running game going. Dante McMillian for the Eagles then. He's going to take it 21 yards up the middle. Remember, these two teams, both of them struggle against the run. In fact, Eastern Michigan dead last in the country against the run. That would set up a Noah Kim 3-yard touchdown. 10-7 Cajuns in the second. Kim finds Nick Devereaux. Look at this catch. Spinning out of bounds at the 2. The Eagles punch it in to make it 14-10. Cajuns respond, though. 7-play drive, the dagger. Bill Davis, there's your other running back. He gets it done, 45 yards. Cajuns are up 17-14. Now, just before the half, Noah Kim finds Joshua Long, 15 yards on the completion. It's 21-17. Eastern Michigan up by 4 at the break. Almost 10 minutes into the third, Cajuns retake the lead thanks to the defense. Cortland Flowers jumps in front of this horrible pass, and he's going to take it home. Makes a couple of moves, gets it into the end zone. 35 yards, it's 24-21 Cajuns. First play of the fourth quarter. Dunlop, again, from 6 yards out. Back come the Eagles, 28-24. Late fourth now, it's 31-24. Watch Beal stay in the pocket. Up top to Sheldon Sampson, 43 yards with a great catch by Sampson. That's going to set this up. Zylan Perry, under a minute to go, 10 yards out. This ball game is tied at 31. But in the ensuing kickoff, a squib kick? Really? Interesting. It's short. The Eagles get good field position. On third down, they need to get a stop. The Cajuns got to get to him. Kim scrambling, heaves it up. Oh, no. He finds Joshua Long for 27 yards. That leaves 7 seconds on the clock for Ruding Kessinger to come in. And from 41 yards out, he sends the Cajuns on the long road trip home with a loss. 34-31, Eastern Michigan cracks the win column for the first time this season. Beal, we'll talk about in a moment. A very solid day at the quarterback position. He'd like those picks back, but the numbers certainly improved. Total yards, Louisiana had more. In fact, statistically, they had a lot more of everything, except for in the final score, where Eastern Michigan gets the win, and now the Cajuns have to regroup before jumping into conference play against Marshall.
We knew we were going to start getting some heavy boxes, and we were going to have to bit of play, throw and catch. And it was good to see part of the game look a lot better. And certainly to see some of those guys make some big plays. Daniel, the receivers, protected, I thought, a whole lot better, really, in general. That's certainly a positive. It just not frequently enough, I guess, as an offense to, be able to continue to attack points.
So, Scott, it was one of those strange games because there was so much improvement that they wanted to see. But then when you look at the breakdown, total yards advantage Cajuns, rushing yards advantage Cajuns, third down conversions were even. Red zone, maybe there's your difference. They only got in there twice. They had the ball for 2 seconds less. So many positive numbers. Even though they had 2 more penalties, it was for fewer yards. Yeah. But in the end, it's that scoreboard that just couldn't make the plays when needed down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think when you look at scoreboards like this and box scores, it looks a lot like it does on Sundays. And it's about making the plays at the very end. Those 4, 5, 6 plays that you look at, did we make them in the critical moment when it mattered most? But, if you're the Cajuns, you're encouraged by the passing game. The passing game came alive this week. You don't want to turn the ball over twice in the passing game. But I think for the offense, the more you can get the ball to Perry and Sampson, I think good things will happen for this offense.
Yeah, and certainly starting to find their own. We'll talk more about the passing game in a second. But I want to go back to what happened at the end. I will tell you that after the ball game, because they were up in Michigan, they had a Zoom call so we could try to talk to Coach and get some comments. And we did get some comments from him. But then the call went out and they lost the signal. One of the questions I'd love to ask, and I'd love to know if he'll address this week when he talks to the media. Let's go back to that last segment after they tie the game at 31. You have a chance to maybe pin them back, unless you're afraid of them running it back, which I'm not sure had been a problem at all. The squib kick, if that was scheduled, I'm not sure it was kicked the way it needed to be, Scott. It started at the 35.
Yeah, I have no problem with the squib kick. I think a lot of coaches in the situation would have done it. You would like that squib kick to be dribbled at least another 10 to 15 yards. A lot more force. And I don't know if he just mishit it, but it just wasn't enough force on the squib.
Yeah, so you want to see a squib kick, but you want it to go to the 20, 15, right?
You want it to dribble down there, roll around where the return guy has trouble picking it up. Now your coverage unit gets a chance to get down there and corral him a little bit. You don't want to kick it off a normal kickoff. Let that hang time happen. That's where the lanes start to happen. You give up a kickoff return. So no problem with the squib kick. The execution of it probably should have been a little harder.
Okay, fair enough. You also talked about the passing game, and let's talk about that because remember, 1 week ago for the Cajuns, they completed 2 passes for 4 yards. Both of them were in the first quarter, and one of them was for a negative yard. Afterwards, Decimo said, I've never seen anything like that. That's a ridiculous line score. Daniel Beal's been trying to work in because Walker Howard was the guy. He finally looked comfortable. This is what they were hoping to see for a passing game that they won. And to your point about Sampson and company, now they can get a comfort with their quarterback. What I like, Scott, here, check down Charlie, right? First, he stays in the pocket. Let's get him going a bit. Let's get some comfort. Now we're going to drop back. Now we're going to kind of let it rip a little bit. He gets a nice one here. You'll see more in a minute where there's another check down. Then at the end, we saw the big one to Sampson. You're almost like watching them build confidence as it's going. Look at the progression before he finds a wide open guy. Check down here, but you know what that does? That's 14 yards.
And that's building confidence. And what you have to do for a quarterback, because in the passing game, it is all timing, chemistry, rhythm. And if you let a quarterback drop back there and you're throwing deep routes, deep crossing routes, and he's getting hit in the back of the head, that speeds up their internal clock. And now they're off course for the entire game. So I love the rhythm they got this young man in early. Just, you said it. Check down Charlie. There's nothing wrong with that. Take what the defense is giving you, and I thought it was a much improved passing game from last week.
Yeah, they certainly need it, and they want to continue growing that as they get ready to open up conference play in a big matchup with Marshall. But a nice job by Beal to see that development from a couple of weeks ago to what we saw Saturday. Unfortunately, a 3-point loss up there in Ypsilanti, Michigan. All right, let's go up to Ruston now. Let's talk about Louisiana Tech and the momentum that the Bulldogs have been building, even after that tough loss in Baton Rouge, where they played the Tigers tough and even had the Tigers kicking field goals at the end instead of punching into the end zone. They carried that momentum home 1 week ago, and they look to carry it over again Saturday night when Southern Miss made the easy drive from Hattiesburg over to take the Bulldogs. And after night, Blake Baker once again getting the start. The difference this time, Scott, he played the whole game. It wasn't an issue with Blake Baker having to share time with anybody else. He played the whole game in this one, and it helps when your first play from scrimmage is a 73-yard catch and run with your tight end, Eli Finley. Takes it all the way down to the 1-yard line. Just ran out of gas, but on the very next play, Baker takes it in himself. How about that? You do the work, I'll walk it in from 1 yard out. Baker gets the score, and it's 7-0 early for the Bulldogs. Southern Miss, though, has a quick response. Braylon Braxton, 39 yards here to Carl Chester. Big completion. Chester holds on to the ball, and then the very next play, Braxton's going to share the wealth. Kieran Heath takes it 30 yards for the touchdown, and we're tied at 7. Now we're tied at 10. More Finley for Tech. Baker's going to find him across the middle, and that's good for 18 yards and gets it past midfield. That sets up Amari Wiggins, and Wiggins from 3 yards out punches it in, and it's 17-10 Louisiana Tech. We're still in the first quarter. Let's go to the second quarter. In fact, let's go a minute into the second quarter. Braylon Braxton with the quick pass, but not quick enough for Colby Fields. He jumps in front of it, and he's gone the other way. 46 yards for the touchdown. It's 23-10, Louisiana Tech. Later in the second, Clay Thevenin scores from 1 yard out. It's 30-10 at half. Great start for Louisiana Tech. Not a huge second half, but at this point, they didn't need it. 30-20 is your final score as Louisiana Tech improves to 3-1, and they're 3-0 at home for the first time since 2019. Eli Finley, your tight end, a career high in receptions and yards, including that very big pass right off the bat that he got all the way down to the 1 yard line. Next game for Louisiana Tech, they stay in Conference USA play when they welcome UTEP. They'll go to UTEP next weekend to continue conference play. Afterwards, comments from head coach Sonny Cumbie.
You know, it's one of those things where that's our guy. Because when you go through a game like last week where he didn't have but one target, there was a holding penalty, and there was really didn't sense a frustration on his part. He just wanted to win a football game, and he did that. And then this week he came back to work and prepared really well, made big plays. Made plays in the open field.
Easy money. I mean, it felt good, but I mean, at the end of the day, I got to do my job. If my role that night's 0 catches or my role's like tonight, I mean, I'm willing to do that job as long as we get a W.
For me, the biggest play of the night was recovering the onside kick. You talk about a nerve-wracking situation, but I think he relied back on his goalie skills, as he was a goalie. He was a big-time soccer player for a long time in high school until he decided to play football. And his sister's the starting goalie at UTEP as well, and played here Friday night, so he was able to watch her play a little bit. Have a lot of high expectations for him, and he lived up to him tonight, and really lives up to him every day because the kid really wants to win. And I said this about Colby, on the post game, it's like these guys had some opportunities, and I think they want to be here and they want to win here, and they've done that so far this year, and they're a big part of it.
I mean, it's just a mindset. Every week we go in, we expect to not let nobody score, and when people usually do score, we kind of be surprised. Our defense full of good players, man. I mean, like I said, we got a 3 deep in every room, not just a linebacker room, not just a D-line room, not just a safety room, not just a corner room. I mean, everybody. You know what I'm saying? Anybody could go out there and play for the Bulldogs at any given moment and play at a real high level.
Hey, 2 deep's one thing. You're 3 deep. You're rolling. But hey, you know what? But give them credit with the confidence that they're playing with right now and what they're doing. Let's take a look at the stat breakdown. Boy, Southern Miss had a very big offensive game, but it wasn't making the plays when they needed to. Louisiana Tech certainly converted in the first half and did what they needed to do to put this game away.
Yeah, you can see the confidence growing with this football team. Again, I think they're a well-coached team. I think Coach Cumbie's a really good coach. I think the confidence started with this team when they went kind of toe-to-toe with LSU for a while.
Yeah,
and I think after that game, they've been a completely different team. They're settling in on the quarterback position. They've been starting the last 2 games, starting fast, fading a little bit in the end, but they've been a completely different team since playing that game in Death Valley.
Well, and to your point, Sonny Cumbie even said afterwards, hey, if LSU's kicking a field goal and we're stopping them late, you're an SEC team, you should punch it in. He took that as a compliment and respect for the defense, and we've seen what they've done the last 2 games out on the field, getting it done defensively as well. And yes, they've now settled on the quarterback. We've seen, remember 2 weeks ago he said, hey, I'm rotating everybody until we settle in. Baker the last 2 weeks has been very strong with that.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that allows you to do that as a coach, and I'll go back to the quarterback position, is this defense has been really good all year long. When you don't have to worry about the defense side of the ball, we don't have to panic about the quarterback position. They haven't had to panic about the quarterback position, like I said, because the defense is playing well. But they've taken their time. They found out what they have in all 3 of their players they've been evaluating, and they're starting to settle in. And it's very important. I know teams like to play a lot of different quarterbacks, but it's important to have a guy to rally around, a locker room to rally around, a defense to rally around, guys to have confidence in. And that leadership grows when that quarterback starts to take over your team.
Remember, at LSU, they played hard and played well into the second half. But to your point, over the last couple of weeks, they've gotten out to a really quick start. It's been at home, and they've been able to settle a little bit. But in the second half, as you mentioned, they've been fading. And, well, don't think Sonny Cumbie hasn't noticed that as well. And that's something that he's talked about, needing this team to improve as they move on.
Yeah, that was the thing that was disappointing, was the second half. And we talked about at halftime is that we have, a standard of how we play regardless of the score and the opponent. And we did not play to that standard in the second half. Our defense played really well. And, I have to watch the film to see the specific reasons why, where the breakdowns were. And I think that's, just something that, for, the 4-quarter game, we've got to be able to execute. And, I think the kids, I don't think they really have any idea of what they're capable of if we do that for 4 quarters. And that's our job as coaches, to try to, to find ways to unlock that in our team.
So So, Scott, let's take a look at what they did. Remember, you had a conference game at New Mexico State a week ago. Then you get the win Saturday night against Southern Miss. But what you're looking at here are the third quarters of the last two games. To your point about fading, you go into halftime feeling well, but you got to carry the momentum back out and start in the third quarter, because these two quarters show you that the numbers, well, they haven't been very strong for Tech in the last two games.
Yeah, every coach is going to be concerned about saying, what do we have to do different coming out of halftime? We showed the clip earlier of Ole Miss. Even when they're up by 30-some points, they're still fast-paced. You have to stay to who you are. No matter if you're winning the game at halftime or not, nothing changes coming out of that locker room in the third quarter. We're going to be who we are, whether it stays aggressive on offense and staying aggressive on defense.
And hey, look, as we know, coaches will look at something like this. They know that this is something they need to improve on, but in the end, it's that final score. And congratulations to Tech to getting enough done in the first half to hold on and make it 3 straight at home for the first time since 2019 before they go on the road to take on the Miners from UTEP. So now we look ahead to week 5, and as we've talked about, as Scott mentioned, it's been kind of the theme of the show. We're now getting ready for that second season, if you will, because conference play will be starting in full, and some of the games we'll be looking at next week to close out the month of September. Well, of course, there's a big one up in Oxford with LSU and Ole Miss, 2 ranked teams that'll be top 12. UL-Monroe, it's homecoming, Arkansas State there. Tulane, again, you're going to face another fast-paced team at Skelly Field in Tulsa, because they rank right behind Ole Miss in terms of pace of play. And down towards the bottom of the screen, that's Southern Jackson State. When there's some hatred between those two teams, Scott, again, conference games that are all important.
Absolutely. You get into these games, and these players have been talked to all year, starting in spring football. Your goal is to win the conference. Your goal is to win the conference. Now that time is here. That season is here. Now go get it done.
We look forward to seeing if they can get it done, because we're going to preview it all for you next Saturday. Then we'll recap it all next Sunday. Glad you joined us here for this Week 4 edition of Game Notes. For the post-game edition, we look forward to seeing you next week. For Scott Shanley, I'm Victor Howell. Have a great week. We'll see you here next Saturday on LPB. Major production funding for Game Notes is provided by Southern University and A&M College, and Hargrove Engineers and Constructors, and the Rumpf Pugh Agency, with additional support from Lafayette Travel, the LSU Alumni Association, and the Cook Hotel and Conference Center at LSU, Louisiana Tech University, Natchitoches Regional Medical Center, Northwestern State University, Red Stick Sports, the U.S. Army Baton Rouge Recruiting Battalion, the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, and viewers like you. Thank you.